I am thrilled to have our next speaker from India to the world. We are welcoming Rahul Lodhi, who is the Senior Director for SAP Artificial Intelligence. Hello there, Rahul. Great to have you join us today. I'll do a quick bio on Rahul and then let him lead the proceedings for you. He has over 20 years of experience in designing, developing, and testing enterprise software products. His areas of expertise include analytics, business intelligence, machine learning, and AI. In SAP, he's responsible for developing the machine learning and artificial intelligence platform for realizing and scaling intelligent enterprise-grade industry use cases. He's also built the city-scale epidemic simulator for COVID-19 used for prediction of COVID-19 cases for city administration in association with research institutes. He's working with the NASCON COVID-19 Industry Task Force to build India's COVID-19 data platform to collaborate with various state governments of India. Real honor and pleasure to have you with us, Rahul, and looking forward to your presentation.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jose, for that excellent intro. And I'm honored to be part of this forum. Always, I was there last year as well. I remember a very interactive audience, and also would love to be this time. So this time we are going to talk about two important topics. First topic is that how AI been transforming in 2020, and how do we look at the trends of AI in 2021. So typically looking at it's been an evolving topic, and it's been a hot topic all over the time, right? We see the pandemic came in, and then there has been some kind of change in the AI, the way we used to use, or some thought process change. So we let's jump into the topic and see that what we would take away. So what we've seen during the pandemic time or pre-pandemic time, right? We always used to talk about whenever the AI it's come on board. We had we need some 3 years of data. We need 5 years of data to detect next 1 week of prediction. What has happened during the pandemic time was we always were looking forward for we didn't have so much data. If you need to look for that, how does my supply chain would work, because everything was making lockdowns, different states. We don't know how the virus progression happening. There has been also demand supply variation. I would say the topics which have not been so much addressed, but suddenly demand are some of the top addressed topic where little bit taken back. So we didn't have so much data to perform the AI prediction at the faster pace, and that's where the innovation start coming. That we are trying to look at the small batches of data based on to make the immediate prediction, and many new algorithms that been developed during that period of time to understand how, I mean, just take an example of how the vaccines got developed, right? Or how we did this prediction of how does the typical progress of the virus going to happen, which just based on couple of months of data which we predicted to the how things to be going ahead. And that's something good thought process that we might not need a years and year data, but our algorithms can be tuned such a way that it can, smaller set of data, I can still get a prediction to take my job. So that's one of the, I think, lot of work happened on that side. Another one important that impacted all of us being, I think, technology and cloud been adopted very heavily. We see the interaction with the end user been changing now, and then the interaction with the end user is now more coming. I mean, earlier we had more of the computer that we were using to click through and do some stuff. Then we had phone calls to do it there. Now it's been all taken with Alexa, Google Play, and many other devices, which we just need to command away and do the activities for that. We're looking forward also. So many cars been also been adopting this technology, and believe me, I mean, going forward, everyone want more comfort and things to be on their voice tip, and the chatbot or the conversational AI has become a very prominent trend where a lot of innovation happen in this side, and they've been developing very heavily their algorithms and updates there. These are one of the disruptive area we see, and something is going to change our interaction with the systems or interaction with the computer, or the way we do our user interaction. So all user interaction going forward going to look in the conversational way, and more easy manner. Another important part is robotic process automation adoption. So if you see, there been always we had different trends and on the industry level especially, right? There we are trying to automate many of the maintenance tasks, or somewhere the approval workflows become someone just said, I want to get the purchase order in. Sorry, I want to procure something, and then just a mail comes that I want to buy a laptop. It's so configuration. Now, typically the IT guy would transform that email into the purchase order. Now, what happening is that the computer itself is reading that via the AI and creating the purchase order on behalf of that particular employee. So, like that, there are many disruptions happening where the mundane task, where the text can be read by a computer, or being give some machine learning activities and automate the task and perform the business workflow. That way, the business process automation has been becoming very optimal, and a lot of innovation happening in this front as well. Another important trend that I would say also because of pandemic, or looking at the way data that we need to circulate, the data access ubiquity, and this is a trend that we see is been very actively taken up by the I would say industry stakeholders as well as data paying topic, because without data we can't able to have good AI prediction, or making the AI ready. So a lot of tools, technologies, even the algorithms been built in order to make the data more accessible, I would say, and in a quality data could get accessible. Next one, also this you guys been thinking or reading about it, but yeah, AI can be used in many ways, and there is no right or wrong, for once we create the biases of the AI. So many governments been working on this, that how does AI, the responsible the AI, or AI ethics can be get adopted, because now it looks at the emerging trend, but down the line this is something which need to be really gone through very well. Either the organization governs, or government governs, or the technology could govern. We cannot leave the machines to govern ourselves to say, because machines can only be biased, or can be trained based on the data that we feed into it. So if we have at least the, let's say, the 0.0% of error in the data, or biases in the data, it would give you more results on such a way. And when we are looking for running such important missions on AI, yeah, sometimes it can be misused, or misused in a different ways as well. We already see the war happening in in the digital world, with the what is right, what is wrong, does it use for businesses, does human being a product, or the data being a product. So this is the topic which has been debated a lot. There's still lot to happen in this side, but believe me, this is going to be one of the trend that we see people working a lot during 2020, and will also continue to make it to the some logical point in 2021. But this is a topic that I think everyone should be care about going forward, and then when the AI comes in picture. Let's look at now as we more talk on the enterprise level, right? And how the challenges of adopting the AI for the enterprise adoption. And this is something where we should be more looking at how the trend that we see so far, how I can bring that back to my enterprises, and how that enterprises to be get working on them. Yeah. So importantly, when we talk about the enterprises, how the enterprises are getting into the getting efficiency, innovation is very important for them. But at the same time, there has been changes, constant changes that you definitely agree with me that every enterprise has to focus on continuous innovation that been adopting to them. There has been dealing with the ecosystem, so their partners, there is their suppliers, so the way they deal with the bringing the new I would say social media also takes it as their only channels has been very important to make it there. So lot of this topic been constantly changing as the technology has been changing a lot, right? And you can't get away with the complexity that you see with the cloud environment coming in nowadays. We always been working now with the hyperscaler world, and we also have this multiple hyperscalers portal, right? They provide multiple tools being used. You can't get rid of that, right? So now it's been making more and more evident that the best and free tool everyone wants to run their businesses more efficiently, and that makes your changing process much more complex when it bring to the how the enterprises need to deal with the AI as well. At the same time, your business process has to be harmonized because today they have been running different things in the different systems, but how they can bring it together and give the pace of the automation for you, or also give the pace for the innovation to make your organization more meaningful. So we are in this world of constant change. It's been increasing, I would say, every time that new technology or new disruption comes. But this is something that you need to understand before we understand how we get to the AI space here. Same time, the AI has been reinventing the businesses. So as we discussed, the core impact that we see going to happen, also the business processes or enterprises in these main categories where we see how the prediction or the core deep learning or machine learning capability is going to come up. How does the intelligent automation is going to play? So that's the RPAs that we discuss about, and the interactivity with the going to be more voice driven interactivity with the system, and people would more interact with that. But important is that how does this business going to impact us? And we see that the human interaction task is going to be automated by 60-60. We are looking by the 60% by 2025. Also, there are about 93% are need to people going to be build the personalized experiences, and also this whole revenue going to be we just predicted that is 3.9 trillion, but it is going to be more than that. How also the potential of these intelligent technologies that we talk about transform the businesses, right? And where do we see the opportunity come when you talk about the enterprises? Enterprises typically, look at there is at least 50% of the large global companies will be using AI, and then they've been advancing their investment into this side, where how they can leverage the analytics as well as making the IoT as a part of their supply chain, which is already happening, and it is not so far away, but it's going to happen as per the Gartner and McKinsey survey that you see. Procurement is almost 60% of individual tasks involved in the source to pay. The processes have the potential to be fully or largely automated, and that's where we see the lot of destruction will come with the what we call as RPAs would come up there, and with AI they will become much more smarter as well. Fintech industries and the finance is at about 50% of overall time of workflow they devote to it. But the possessing of the data and the potential of bringing the automation is very high, and still there are a lot of things to do. But these are the trends which comes from the limited zones, and that's where the technology become more intelligent and when we need to have it. But when you talk about the AI, which one side of it looks good to be bringing a lot of potential and a lot of, I would say, the lot of important aspects to it in your businesses, and we look forward for how the businesses could get transformed with the pace. What is more important also is that we have to look at realistically, and how does the AI whether it's able to keep the pace with that. And to be very fact is that AI is being many of the AI projects being failed. I would say about making AI to the production is very less now, and we see a lot of issues being there. At the same time, many organizations also struggle with the complexity, because this complexity with the different distributed environments. How do we struggle to get into the right kind of area that you need to focus on? You have your on-prem system, you have your cloud system, your data coming from different streams as such. You need to bring them together in order to build the right AI project. And another important point is that there's a shortage of data scientists. I mean, as per the survey says that there's going to be a shortage of at least 250,000 data scientists, which we might be getting to it. And I think it's been a picking up trend, but we see a lot of things. So whenever you have to build the AI project, it should be like a orchestra, where you need to bring all the things together in order to make the right things to it. Not that you're just going to disrupt the business processes by not having your base ready properly. And in order to make the disruption, you need to first think about how do you want to reimagine your business processes. So first and foremost, in order to get the maximized value of your current asset, you need to kind of address the challenges to reimagine the way payments work, or look at the AI in the holistic way before you think of how can you get into the next bank. And this is something that that you should start thinking towards, to think that how could you get maximize of your data, right? So your processes, and curate the diverse data. How do you transform the raw data into the usable assets? Optionalize your machine learning. That's something which is important. So your data, that's somewhere you have to process and try to bring them into and somewhere the readable format. Next important part, that you have to simplify and beautify your data. So analyze, correlate, diverse the multi-phase data across different landscapes, and somewhere it can be get it the way that it can be accessible to your developers, and they could able to really make a meaning out of it. Otherwise, if your data is viewed into the different systems, it's very difficult to pick up from there and use it for your purposes. Third, you have to look forward for your implementation of AI confidently. So how can you build that environment of where you are creating and deploying the machine learning model? At the same time, you are making the result that get output of your AI has to be kind of explainable, or you feel that confident that okay, it's not a biased result, or I'm getting the right amount of accuracy of the result. So you need to build that environment, and I would say platform to make that thing happen. And importantly, the automation and the scale is the important part, because what you build today is maybe looking for a smaller problem, but looking at that larger scale, how that can be possibly happen. So many projects you see is been doing good with the POC stage, but the scaling part is very, very important. And fourth and important pillar to it is seamless compliance part. So I mean, we have been seeing the data protection, privacy, and there have been many other challenges which typically comes here. So it's very important that data organization policies, or you would have also the governance around the data. Those has been also been taken care when you think about how do you address to get to the AI phase when you are challenging your enterprise enterprise readiness for the AI project. Another point that we should also be consider is that the different key persona which involved when we look at the AI reaches to the organizations. There will be now from IT point of view, especially, right? We are not looking at the end user, but before you reach to the business, you need to have that the CIO who would be looking for the organization, but for the data scientist and the operations who is doing the machine learning operations, they would like to have a lot of new open source technology to be used, and their need is to they need to keep the fast pace with the technology. At the same time, the guy who makes it into the production, he look for more compliance part, whether what you're bringing open source as a security loophole, or it has to follow some security or corporate guideline. And that's why there's many times disagreement about what data scientists bring and what the ops guy wanted to put it there. And same thing, the cost and managing the organization is becoming complex. These are the typical three persona get challenge in the process. Just getting into the dive into the fact that we need to little bit also understand what is the enterprise AI before we look forward for the enterprise bringing to the solution part of it, that how we can make it more simplistically. The enterprise AI is a different flavor to it. It's nothing that something that we wanted to make it very complex, but just that AI should be always thought through from what business processes you are trying to improve. So it also should become always from business process perspective. You can do the POC. So typically what happens is that when the normal AI, or what we say is people are building POC, they have Excel data, you really put the good prediction out of it, you show to your management, and management starts say, oh, this looks cool, let's implement, take this to production. When you try to take this to production, you see the challenges that your maybe data is not connected properly, you're not getting right amount of data, your accuracy is not getting sure there, your delivery has been not managed, you would see the challenges in that front. When we look at the enterprise readiness of AI application, you should always think about how this particular experimentation going to help the business. You should look from a business perspective there. So either the output of your AI has to be go into the, whether you are making to the your chatbot, consuming it in the form of your conversational AI, or your RPA getting useful, or if so the business sort of really getting triggered, or maybe it could be the analytics that something is going to be useful for that. That's where your value of your AI would be, or artificial intelligence experimentation is going to be useful. And you should start from the where data required to reach to that end stage. And I think in middle, when you create the experimentation and your models for machine learning, or the accuracy of the model, all those parts has to be managed in the form of the development process. But those are not the key part. Key part is how your data coming and how you are able to produce the output out of it there. Which also is important that the information management system that we build it from the data perspective is very important. That how do you discover your data, how the refinement of the data happens, but at the same time how you orchestrate the data, because when your data is coming from a multiple data sources, right? It's not easy that we will be lucky if, let's say, you're able to create the enterprise grade solution by just getting the data source from one place. So that will be the easy task to do. But the moment you have data coming from your transaction data from your on-prem system, you have your the IoT data coming from your different system, and there are different combination of the online streaming data that you're getting as well. So when there are multiple datas are impacting your overall system, it's important to also orchestrate them together. And also when you're orchestrating, you need to get the right output which need for the AI to consume. So you need to think through this aspect before we start, your AI project, and importantly also governance and compliance part. So you really need to think about that. How does your AI to be used as in the form of the assembly line? So your data is coming, the connection part, structured data, unstructured data, or you have stream data, which could be then get into the orchestration process. So you have orchestration, agile data preparation, machine learning, and the deep learning thing to make it. So you basically get your data, orchestrate your data, you build your model, and you bring it to the deployment phase. The moment you have deployed the model, the deployment would then look into the how does your model performance, because your model is as good as the way it could project the data, or as good as it's to the inference well. And you should also have strategy about how do you replace the model and bring it at right point of time the right model as well there. So the scale part, as you are looking forward for, let's say I right now build a model for one division, or I build a model for one country, and that model has to scale through the multiple countries, or multiple divisions, or multiple distributions that we build from. So that thought process has to be there, because when we talk about enterprises, it has to be the scale is important for that, and you should look forward for somewhere where the Docker Kubernetes kind of environment, which can be really easily scalable with hyperscalers, and not to be very specific when they are only thing that you're doing for one experimentation, and it would, but when the moment you get more data, more load, more variation, it would not scale. So this part is very important when you are building the machine learning model. And last, but the very important part here is the how you are consuming. So till the time your consumption strategy is not there, there's no use of your building a very good model, or getting very good output of your overall now the overall experimentation. So it's important that consumption should be either is getting to your RPAs, or you're doing the analytics, or it's triggering back to the any business processes with something which would make the automation possible, or bring the efficiency by using the AI. So any business case that you have for AI, you have to think through this assembly line concept. Then you could able to start your project to implement it on the scale. Otherwise, there will be chances of either you disconnect one of this piece, and you will always end up might be with things. Something in the basics is not working, or your data is not getting right, your pipeline is not getting right, or your connection is not getting right to your end application. Then you will have some challenges. So I would say the architecture point of view, the architecture building point of view, is a very important phase that you should be focusing on. And this is the way I think to able to also consolidate these different personas who are kind of working towards it, or these three personas that always been disjoined. They would have a complete visibility of end-to-end cycle, and you also know that how we can make it adopted and implemented to the each other if you have this part of your strategy, and also the cost would be now only managed. Let's put it this through the quick example that would like to bring it up here. So this is a simple example, my favorite example. Always, I feel like to connect that with the concept that something we are talking about. It's come again from the production manufacturing plant, where you can think of somebody who's been building piston of a car manufacturer, car engine manufacturer, I would say. And his important part is that once this particular component get developed, he has to show that it's at the right quality. And this particular process they wanted to either do manually, or they wanted to change it via the using AI. And how does that happen here? This particular company, they had the IR images been put. So as soon as your component is ready, the image will be taken. Which typically with the machine learning, with extraction, you can see the dimension of the image. You already have the right data, and that data you try to match here and say that okay, it's the right output. Then you use the IoT sensors. So IoT sensors kind of you're putting the pressure on it, and the sensor says you that whether it's been rightly done or not. A third one is that you need to get the master data of this particular component. So you have to check that you go to your ERP system and get the master data part that you have to make this application when you say that yeah, its quality is right, and also the how can I predict this can be done the right way, and also then I have to give this smart quality app to imagine the process. So they would just get the output on their hand. So if you're just looking at the architecture high level concept point of view, that yeah, that is the manufacturing, you have mold press, and then the IoT typically send data to the Kafka, and the Kafka would already have the messaging queue which stored all the event stream. And then you have IR images taken by they are pretty heavy in size, so they will go and store in Hadoop or data lake. But in order to bring them together, and again, if we let's say using SAP HANA and ERP concept here, you need to really connect them together. And at the same time, if you get things for production ready, those things has to be joined in conjunction. But today, if you're not thinking through and identifying each problem as a simple problem, you might have a very good your IR image solution, but it's not connected to your Kafka, or is not connected to your backend system. You always have challenges. How do you show this into the your ERP app? What has been, I think, reimagined via if we think through the problem from a beginning. So first thing that you should do is that we have to make this Kafka data to bring also to data lake. So you have to create a data pipeline where you already have your Python model created, for example, and which basically comparing the IR images versus the images are right or wrong, and then you correlate this data with the ERP data and also use the algorithm for prediction, and that could connect it to your smart quality. And this is the way you could bring the end-to-end process flow in a clean way, where you could are able to produce the impact your business process and can see the predictive quality app could be delivered the right result on the regular basis, I would say. So this is one of the example that will bring, but in nutshell, in summary, this is the kind of environment that you should look forward to when we talk about bringing the AI landscape, or building your AI enterprise ready readiness. First thing is that your data is coming, so your data can become as a stream data, or your structured data, unstructured data, or geospatial data. You need to have a right engine, right? Because all the machine learning would run either Spark, Python, or there is the HANA, and there are many other open source. So you have to embrace the open source, right? Because all these technologies has been working with the open source so far, and open source is the key to it. Without the open source, you can't have build the environment, because you can't want to reinvent everything by your own, and everything has to sit on your cloud environment, to be run on the Docker and the Kubernetes stack. It has to be scaled horizontally. So as and when there is something which importantly required, it has to be scaled such a way on the way that infrastructure doesn't become a bottleneck. And this is the way to look forward to reimagine your business process or architecture flow, I would say. Yeah, just to put this in perspective, how should you start your journey typically? You should start your journey with the making all the data together, make your information the environment management part ready, make the delivery of a comprehensive data and visualization. The next part is how should you visualize the data and look at that from the BI solution to be implemented. So what you like to do for your model creation should be able to at least get this data and sources there and the right pipeline in. And then you should look for initial experimentation, machine learning use case that to be bring it up, and followed by you should look for a deployment of a machine learning model, look at the deep learning into the production usage that you're moving in. And the important part is that then augmentation of your business processes to the end-to-end to make it to the right clarity there. So this is the way you basically think of how you want to bring the enterprise readiness to the your AI solutions, and this way you would able to leverage to make it to the successful. So the crux of it is that don't think as the POC to make the AI successful, but look at the complete assembly line approach in order to make it real adaptive in the organization. With that, yep, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. And over to Josh. If you have some questions, I would be more than happy to address them.
Fantastic, Rahul. Very much appreciate your presentation. You cover a lot of ground. You covered so much related to enterprise AI. Right off the bat, let me ask you a very practical question that has emerged, which is, I mean, you show the a level of complexity that's almost required currently to have good enterprise AI and have an understanding of all those components. And then you also talked about the need, the simplicity of some aspects of it, that they need to simplify some aspects of it. So, so my question is, you know, since we last talked, it's been a few months since we last talked, and you know, AI, enterprise AI continues to evolve. You know, at the current state, what are you, what's getting you excited about AI at an enterprise level? Things that maybe, you know, 1-2 years ago were not there, and now you're thinking it's not hype anymore, it's ready for prime time. What are some of the things that you're excited about when it comes to enterprise AI?
Yeah, I think good question, and that's something I would regularly think about it as well as a part of my job to look at the excitement at that level. I think a lot of things has been transforming as well as AI as an evolving field, and we see there are the trends which have been changing quite a lot, especially when you look at the enterprise grade applications. The important part is that the business processes, which are the key to make our business or our enterprises more smarter, I would say there. And there be the technology or been playing very heavy role. We see many algorithms which are coming at the faster pace. At the same time, the base for AI is the data. So one of the initiative, one of the innovation that we spoke about, which coming on AI, is this data access, Ubiquity. And that's something, there are a lot of innovation happening at that stage where we see the quality data is coming out, which is making us to build the prediction easier. And that pace of data aligning with the hyperscalers, bringing picture and with those pipelines is been making many possibilities achievable for us. And also earlier we were just thinking about, oh, I can make it, how do I save the cycle time? How can I make something automation easier? But now we are looking at the new business avenues with such kind of opportunities which are coming, which never been thought before. Especially now we joined this AI completely with conversational AI. The way we see the home automation is coming in picture as well, and business process can be just triggered with the from directly from the chatbot, and you could see the supply chain will trigger, and since something has been delivered at the pace. So whole this end-to-end cycle of the automation you powered by AI, that something was, I would say, not been, I mean, it has always been imaginary, but we see some good amount of progress happening to make these all complex systems together in order to build the smart algorithms and making it to next level. I would say the next big thing which would excite me as well, to look at how this whole autonomous vehicle concept going to be driven through, right? When now this drone become already reality, these autonomous vehicles becoming a reality there, and slowly I believe they are the one who are going to guide the next generation of the AI, which maybe 2 years back did not even thought through, or just to be like Star Trek kind of a concept, which we are thinking that everyone will have their own bot, robot who will assist them. And I'm damn sure that down the line 5 years, something like that could be a reality.
Very true, very true. And Rahul, a lot of our audience today globally are, is made up of enterprise architects, and there is a different level of maturity. Some of them have working very large corporations that have developed enterprise architecture already. Others are kind of building as they go along. And especially for that group that's building enterprise architecture currently. How do you account for AI as you start building the blocks for enterprise architecture? What would be a good approach for them to take, so that the transition to AI systems is more seamless?
Excellent. Yep. I would suggest to take always a step-by-step approach, because as we see also in presentation, if you try to do something drastically at very higher scale, and that's what my personal experience is, that being now for 3 to 4 years being in the field and working with many customers globally, very closely to make the AI successful. Whenever there is something to hurry and not your backend is ready and your consumption is ready, there's a high chances of AI project could get failed, right? So we have to AI is not, adoption is not like building any business application, or is not right, yeah, you have requirement and someone will code it and your application ready in couple of days or weeks time, right? It's always to the end-to-end process flow, where you have to start thinking of, first I would suggest them to think on your data pane level. So data pane is the key for it, where you would take care of your governance, your data labeling, data anonymization, kind of a concept that would be later on build it to make your AI application. So first and foremost is that data pane is important. There are a lot of documents or material available, I'm more than happy to support any of them with my knowledge. But yeah, that's where we should get started with it. The more stronger your data pane, your AI will be the more easier, and adoption will be more easier. Second part is that then build the infrastructure where it would be more stronger, where you get able to run the AI, make the data available for a data scientist. They could build the algorithms around it to make your business process. And the consumption of AI is the third part, where the consumption, make the APIs ready environment or your front application, where they could consume the APIs which coming from AI. So AI could run independently out of your system, because it's always process hungry and memory hungry process. So you can't think of your business application running. You could run the AI within the same system or same environment. Otherwise, it will eat up your complete space, and there'll be downtime with your critical application. So run it separately, but consume it maybe in the same location. But I would say separate environment or hyperscaler segregation there. But consume that to your business application. So your business application make ready where they to just take the inference of the data or inference of the model that you are getting into, and then deliver to your application. So these three layers are very important. Every layer has multiple components to it, and those to be thought through. I'll be more than happy to support in these discussions.
That's excellent. And we have a couple minutes, so I also want to go a little bit deeper on something you just talked about, which is this. Even on your use cases, you have some examples where you show this this integration of business process and then with machine learning. And so what are some best practices, best approaches to do that integration of business process with machine learning?
Yeah. So importantly, we have to look at the machine learning output, right? So machine learning output is always would be in terms of the either you would build your robotic automation, right? Or you trigger output of this going to be in your application, embedding the link or embedding the dashboard into your business application. And this integration point among these two has to be governed with the open APIs. So the integration among these two would be the disjoint little bit, but at the same time the context has to be passed through. So the first part of integration is security and tenant management, because that's where we talk about the whether you are looking into the because data privacy is the important part, and then the more you are going to the cloud environment, is always the tenancies is become the key. So your tenancy that you maintain and security you maintain at your application level, business application level, that has to be followed through your AI space to your data plane as well. So security and tenancy is something that the from integration point of view take care. Second part is to make your applications API ready, as I said before also. So it should be consumption should be easier from the application point of view, and the scaling part of the application. So from integration point of view, when the both applications come, there is always the domain entity model that we talk about. So the entities that you use into your application has to also flow through from your data. So these entities has to be also matched together using the AI. So these three or four, I would say, the best practices to be followed when you are thinking about the integration, the security domain entity model, the bringing the API readiness there, and looking from the application point of view to the end-to-end. So these are the key pieces. But it's indeed a good question, and I mean, uh, since we have less time, but I could talk hours on these topics definitely, and
Yes.
my
And
experiences.
Rahul, I'm so appreciative of talking to you about this topic because it's always a masterclass on the practical applications of enterprise AI, and you do it masterfully. So thank you so much today for sharing your expertise with the world, and we're very fortunate to have you providing those insights to us, and very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my honor to be part of this conference, coming again and again and sharing my experiences. And it's really nice to be see you again, definitely.
Thank you very much, Rahul. Ladies and gentlemen, Rahul Lodhi, Director of SAP Artificial Intelligence, a real knowledgeable leader and practitioner of artificial intelligence, not the hype, the real practice of artificial intelligence in enterprises around the world today. So a real privilege to have him with us. And he set us up as based on his answers, as you heard directly from him, to the topic that will be the focus of our conference next week. Next week, we're going to be kicking off Robotics Process Automation and Intelligent Automation Conference. And that was a little bit of a preview of some of the topics that we're going to go deeper on next week. Now, we're going to wrap up this session, and we're going to start a fresh session at the top of the hour and the last session of the day. And it's about intertwining the nature of digital transformation, enterprise architecture, and secure business operations. And this is going to come from a leader and a very experienced and successful leader in the biotech industry. We'll have Nilesh Ajmani, who is the lead enterprise architect and senior data scientist at Biogen, sharing his expertise with us on how he's doing that with enterprise architecture. So very glad to have you all with us. We have one more session at the top of the hour. Very much looking forward to seeing you there again. Thank you.